We generally talk about entities in a manner where the associated units are understood, though when it comes to developing simulation models, it's very beneficial to be explicit about the units. By explicitly identifying the units associated with the elements in a model, it helps us ensure that we're not implementing operations in the model that simply don't make any sense. I mean, just imagine what it would mean to divide oranges by apples. It just doesn't make any sense. So within a model, within Insight Maker, you can identify entities, or you can identify a set of units for an entity. And you can do that by either selecting over here on the parameters bar on the right hand side and selecting the units and selecting a unit from the pop-up window. And there are a large number of typical elements units already defined within Insight Maker that you can use in terms of business, commerce, and money and time, and temperature and pressure and distance, those kinds of things. And when you define them, a stock, it represents a quantity of some entity. So it's just a number of units of something. Whereas a flow is in fact something that is moving per unit of time dependent upon how you set up the simulation to run. Now links are just communicate information from one point to another, and links don't have any units, so they're never confusing. It is in fact variables which can be whatever type of units you define for them based upon the interactions that results, or the formula inside of the variable itself. So in this particular instance, I said the bathtub is gallons. The full level, which is the goal for the bathtub, is also in gallons. Gap turns out to be gallons because it is in fact the difference between two elements which are both gallons. The faucet itself has to be in gallons per minute because this is a model that for a simulation that runs over a period of minutes, and therefore the flow rate has to be in units per minute, so that when the simulation is done, which is essentially a numerical integration over time, gallons per minute is integrated into simply being gallons, which ends up in the bathtub. Though from looking at the faucet, the gap is in gallons, the fill rate is in gallons per minute, and to look at the formula that's defined for the faucet itself, it looks to see if the gap is greater than the maximum fill rate, and to get the maximum fill rate to be in units of gallons so that we can actually compare the two of them, we have to multiply it by 1 minute to get rid of the gallons per minute units associated with the maximum fill rate. And depending upon that comparison, the result of this particular calculation is either the maximum fill rate, which is gallons per minute, or the gap, which was in gallons, divided by 1 per minute, so that it ends up being in the right units, so that when the calculation is done, the faucet, the flow, ends up being in gallons per minute, and everything is consistent. Now, ensuring that the units in your model are consistent doesn't guarantee the validity of the model, though it does in fact give you a better level of confidence than if you didn't use any units at all. Now I will tell you in advance that initially you will find using units to be cumbersome, simply because, as I said in the beginning, we have generally used entities and the units have been assumed or understood and not explicitly stated. So once we start to explicitly identify the units and attempt to ensure that they come out right, it's initially a little cumbersome, though after a period of time one gets used to it and it works out just fine. As another example, here's one of a savings account where the savings account is in dollars. It's an amount of money, and as I said, you can access units from down here on the right. You can also access units from the equation editor window with the button down here on the left, which opens the units dialog so that you can select from that. And the units that you use in a model are all displayed at the top, so it doesn't matter where you initially found the units to apply. Once you use them in the model, they're stuffed into this folder at the top for easy reference if you're going to apply them to other elements within the model. So the savings account is in dollars. The interest rate is unitless. It's just a multiplier used to multiply times the savings account. Though the interest rate has to be in dollars per year, because when the simulation runs, it has to integrate dollars per year to produce dollars. So to get this formula to come out right, which is in fact savings account times interest rate divided by the time, this variable was established simply for the purposes of getting the units to come out right, and it is a quantity of 1 with the units of years, so that in this particular formula it's the interest rate divided by the time, which gives me dollars per year, which is the right units for this particular flow. Now you can imagine that there are just an endless array of possible units that one might end up using within a model, and it's not possible to identify and define them all in advance in Insight Maker. So there is a capability to create custom units. So for this particular stock, this is a population model. The units for the population are individuals, and that is a standard entity within the units which are previously defined, though that makes births into individuals per year, which is not a standard type of entity, and the birth rate, which is individuals per year, so that the birth rate individuals per year times individuals gets the flow to come out right to be individuals per year. So if we look at the custom units definition, which is on the units dialog box itself, you look at the definition, and we've set up that individuals per year on a scale of 1 is simply individuals divided by years, and the same way with individuals per year is individuals divided by years. So once these custom units are defined, they then show up here in this folder at the top under custom units, and you can assign them to entities in the model as you develop it. Makes it very convenient that you can in fact define whatever set of units are appropriate to the context of the model that you're developing. And I've included here another one that you can look at because it has some additional unique units, whereby this is population and this is food, and if you look at the formula, it's 1 divided by the other, so that the units for this are kilograms per individual, which is definitely not the typical kind of units that you find in the defined list, so they had to be developed as custom units. And this one is kilograms per individuals per year, and the death rate is in individuals per year. So you can look through this and look at the custom units. So the intent was just to give you a sense of the fact that there is a full complement of units available, and Insight Maker will validate the units computation as it's doing the simulation, and there is a capability to add custom units to the environment should that in fact be the case. So hope you found this useful. See you in the next video. Bye.